New VR games, we freaking love them, but of course, one thing that all VR gamers are looking for is that AAA experience. Now, we have been treated to a few things on the PSVR 2 already, with things like Horizon Call of the Mountain, Resident Evil, and a few others to name a few. We also have more on their way with like Hello Neighbor and Behemoth and some of these other titles that are looking to be our AAA titles. But of course, with Sony comes some incredible IPs and things that I would love to personally see get turned into a VR game, and honestly I think it's like a headset seller type game. So that's what we're going to be diving into today, is 10 of my personal wishes that I would love to see, and also I think are quite possible to see come to virtual reality later down the line. Now we're going to dive right in with my very first pick, and that, my friends, is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of those games that I would genuinely love to see come to virtual reality, and not just me, I think the wider population of all VR players would love to see this get a kind of the game that it deserves. Now, Insomniac already does an incredible job at making Spider-Man games. Both Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man Miles Morales were incredible games, some of the few things that I've actually played through more than once because I genuinely love the experience. I think if Insomniac took a dive into a VR game like this, it would just explode. Now, Insomniac's already had previous history with making VR games, and they've made some incredible bangers back in the day. Now it's time to step it up and bring it to Spider-Man. I want to see this. I want to whip my way around a city looking stunning, and if they, oh god, if they incorporate all of those amazing haptics, actually being able to feel the webs leaving your arms, it would just be next freaking level. And I just think this could be something that would be honestly a headset seller, and something that would just blow up the VR industry to have an actual Spider-Man games come to it. Now, of course, the IP is owned by Sony already, and they already have incredible studios like Insomniac. The whole components are there and waiting for us, and we have Spider-Man 2 coming our way pretty darn soon as well. So all the components are there. I would just love to see this one come to life. Next up is Blood and Truth 2. Now, I absolutely adored Blood and Truth 1. I really hope that this gets a port to the PSVR 2. It really genuinely needs it. That game with proper motion controllers, oh my days, it would be phenomenal. So I really hope that we at bare minimum get Blood and Truth, get a port to PSVR 2, but I would love to see a sequel to it nonetheless. It was such an action-packed, fun adventure to get into, and honestly, it was kind of leaps and bounds ahead of itself in the gaming industry. When that game came out, it really defined what could be done with VR, and the only thing holding it back was of course the PSVR 1 and those darn controllers that made everything just feel clunky. But with the new controllers, the new headset, I feel like this is the future that we have been waiting for. Please, please, please give us a second one, or at bare minimum bring across the Blood and Truth 1 and just give it to us. Come on, give it to us. I feel like this would be amazing. If you've ever wanted to feel like an actual London gangster, this game has it all, and it will keep you hooked the entire way through the game. Next up is another old one that I would love to see come to the PSVR 2, and of course see a follow-up sequel to it, and that is Fairpoint. Fairpoint brought us the AIM controller, and it was bundled with it at the time of its release, and oh my god, it was such an incredible experience. Fairpoint is a very, very solid game anyway, a great story followed with some incredible action, and just a whole sort of slew of awesomeness that came with that game. I really would love to see that come to the PSVR 2. There's almost no reason why they shouldn't do that, as it would sell again, and I'm sure that all the new people that have come in on this new generation of VR headset would definitely buy into this game. Now, the second sequel to this would be incredible, utilizing all of the new technology that we have now, and of course the power of the PS5. This could be an absolute freaking banger. Great story, would love to see a follow-up to it, and it was definitely left at a cliffhanger that could be picked up and followed on to a new story. So let's hope that we see that come to the PSVR 2. Next up is Batman VR. Now, there's already rumours that a Batman VR game is being worked on, so this is something that's more than likely going to be happening, and of course we have no real solid details at the moment, but nonetheless we have had a Batman VR experience before, and I say experience because it was not a full game. This was quite a short experience, but nonetheless it was freaking incredible. Getting to go in and see the Joker, see some of his biggest nemesis, and honestly get to do that whole detective thing felt freaking amazing. If they fleshed this out and turned it into a full proper Batman game, and I want it to be kind of dark and gritty as well, just to really like emphasize what I'm looking for in this Batman game, something to follow up with that sort of Gotham Knights feel, and just, oh man, it would be so freaking dope. I would absolutely love to see that, and I think with the better mechanic systems that we have in place now with virtual reality and a better understanding of how to produce incredible games, this game could be again another system seller. I feel like that's going to be the running theme for all of my picks on this list. All of these games would literally sell headsets assets in a heartbeat. So that's why I'm picking them, and Batman would definitely be one for me that would just blow it out of the water. Next up is a bit of a hope and a dream, and something that hasn't really been teased or anything just yet, but God of War. I would love to see this, and honestly it would translate so well into virtual reality. God of War is an incredible franchise anyway. I absolutely adore all of the games that have come from them, and it just feels like the next logical move to give us an experience. For this, I would kind of hope that it would be something similar to sort of like the, the Call of the Mountain game. Something that's maybe like 6 hours, not a fully fleshed out 40, 50, 60 hour game, but something that would really give you a chance to dive into the boots of Kratos and actually get to experience that world. Can you imagine being able to throw the Leviathan axe, catch it back, get into a battle, fight and slash your way through it, while summoning Boy to actually get in there and shoot some arrows, switching between Atreus and yourself? It would just be so freaking dope. I would absolutely love to do that, and I feel like they could probably work a story into one of the first or second new games. So I'm just gonna, the last 2 games that came out for God of War. If they could work in a story somewhere mid in those things, that maybe you could experience some of those boss fights, some of those experiences going along the way, I really think they could make something that was absolutely dope. Maybe some lost story between the first and second installment. That would be just absolutely dope. So fingers crossed, I would really like to see this. And Sony, honestly, again, this kind of game would just make sales and make press everywhere, because people would want to get in this. Like, I feel like all of the games that I'm talking about in today's video are the kind of games like Half-Life Alyx, the ones that actually made people go out and spend $1,000+ buying a VR headset just to play that game. So come on, let's freaking do this. Next up in a similar vein, Uncharted VR. This game literally is the perfect translation into a VR game. Incredible climbing, puzzle solving, exploring, and of course gunfighting. All of those things work so incredibly well in virtual reality. That mixed in with an Uncharted story would be incredible. Now, if I had it my way, I would say go back to Uncharted 1 and just work your way through. All of the stories already there, all of the game mechanics, all of the locations, all of the places. I would just love to experience the full saga of Uncharted games just in virtual reality. Can you imagine how incredible that would be? Like, it would just be amazing. I don't want any differences in those things, just translate them into a VR game, and I think it would just blow it out of the water. Now, there was actually a tweet from Naughty Dog that said like, oh, now we've got this the TV series out, what would you expect? Maybe a VR game? So they were kind of like hinting at the idea that they actually might be working on something. Now, of course, they already work on Uncharted, and they made those games, and of course they're a Sony IP studio as well, so this is something that possibly actually could happen. This leads right into, of course, my next game that I want to talk about, The Last of Us. Now, The Last of Us is obviously huge and popping off right now, and has been really ever since its existence, and it again would translate perfectly into a VR game. That stealthy action, the fighting, the emotion, the story, the exploration, the horror, all of those things would truly make for an incredible VR experience, and I feel like now is the right time for that. Again, I feel like for this, I would just want to see that first and second game actually translated into a VR game. Nothing needed new, no additional story for these things, just to, like, in the same way that you keep getting remakes for things like Resident Evil, just an enhanced version but for VR instead, and it would honestly be exceptional. They have all of the elements right there ready for this thing. The only thing they need to do is make it into VR. It would be so incredible. Of course, I am underselling how hard it would be to translate those things into this. I'm not just like, hey, you have the assets, you can do this. But nonetheless, they have the building blocks. They just need to build upon them to turn it into a VR game, and it would be perfection. Now, the next one has been teased by Meta for a long time, and that is GTA. I would love to see GTA come into the VR world. I feel like, again, it's a game that it's just such a no-brainer. It would work incredibly well in virtual reality. Now, we supposedly, definitely air quotations, have San Andreas coming to the Meta systems. Maybe. I mean, they only name dropped it and then never picked up on that again, and have not spoken of it ever since. But nonetheless, I feel like Sony could have the power to make this happen with Rockstar, okay? The way I see it, GTA 5. Why in the world wouldn't that be an easy enough way to bring it into VR? We've already seen a ton of modders make this work with motion controllers and make the entire thing feel incredible on the PC. Literally, It's possible, I've seen it, I've played it, and so have a ton of other people at this point because of the modding community. Now, if they can do it, then I believe Rockstar can do this absolute justice and bring it into virtual reality in the best possible way. Imagine playing GTA 5, something that huge on that scale in VR. Whoo-wee. I'm telling you, from the experience I've had with it, just with the modded stuff, it would be incredible. And the tools are there to have this work. Next up is one of my favourites, Dying Light. Again, this game almost came to virtual reality. It literally has a baked-in VR mode. Now, it's only like a 3DoF mode, so you can only use your head to look around, you can't use your hands, there's no motion controllers or anything like that. But this game was almost made into a virtual reality game. They backed out at the last minute and changed it to just being flat. And honestly, what a sad day it is to have almost had Dying Light come to VR. So this is something that quite literally could possibly be done. They could dive back in and finish off those systems and bring this game into the virtual reality space. And I'm telling you, can you imagine that parkour element of running around, jumping, sliding, building incredible weapons, fighting insanely awesome zombies, the terror that comes with the nighttime, especially on the PSVR 2 with those OLED panels. Oh my god, it would be freaking incredible. I would genuinely love to see that happen, and honestly, it's more than possible. Literally, like 80% of the work has already been done and is already baked into the game. It just needs those final things being added to it, like motion controls, and really just iron out those systems to work in VR a little bit better. And again, don't need anything new doing to the game, I just want it VRified, and it would be next freaking level. My god, we're so close to having that. I've actually experienced this myself. You can enable a VR mode. I did do a video on this a long time ago, and it works. It really works, and it could be something very special if they just kind of sprinkled that special sauce on top and brought it to us. And last up on my list is probably my most wild ask out of all of them, as it's not a Sony IP, and it also is just something that's not really been done before just yet. And that, my friends, is Lord of the Rings. Oh my god, I would love more than anything to get in and experience the trilogy of Lord of the Rings in virtual reality. Can you imagine if they released them like 3 games over 3 years, getting to go through each part of the journey? If you went and you could pick to go through as Frodo, say for instance, and actually experience the whole of what goes on in that incredible story. Oh my god, it would be so mad. If they went to the next level and had the voice actors, well, the actors and actresses come in and actually do the voice lines for this, oh god, my god, it would be so next level. Imagine going through that whole journey, experiencing it in first person, fighting people all the way through to like that orc battle, man. Oh my god, it would be freaking insane. In an ideal world, I'd kind of want to be able to either play through the whole thing as just Frodo, or possibly switch out and work with other characters along the thing. So like maybe you could be Gimli at some points, maybe you could be Legolas, maybe you could be, oh my god, you could be anyone. It would be so freaking dope. For me, this is such a no-brainer of an experience that could just be so incredible, and the franchise needs it. Like, it would sell like freaking hotcakes. Again, this kind of thing needs to be done incredibly well. It can't be a half-assed job. This needs to be like full effort and give you that full experience of like, oh man, like maybe like a 6-hour chapter per movie, turning that into like a full-on game where you get to go in and experience it from start to finish. It would be incredible. Please make this happen. I would love it. Now, I will finish off this video by saying, if you want to see this happen, any of these titles, maybe we should at Sony over on Twitter, you know, tell them, watch this video, make these games happen, please. It's up to you guys. I just feel like we could run a little bit of a fun campaign over here, get this video tweeted out, get some people's eyes on it. Most of the games on this list could quite possibly happen. Honestly, I feel like we're going to get at least a good sort of, I think a good 40% of these games on this list might come to actually happening and might actually happen in the future. But I do think that they're all possible. It's just a case of getting the right studios involved and of course getting those licenses. So I don't know. Sony, please, I'm begging you. You could make the VR gaming industry different with these 10 games. You could make legendary status.